secret to tell you. It might help explain a lot of the things that you see happen around you, especially if you're a younger person from Generation X or the Millennials, Generation Y, or even the up-and-comers that are a little too young now, Generation Z, we'll call them. Your parents and grandparents, they hate you. They can't stand that you think differently than they do. And they're scared to death of you competing with them in the marketplace. Shh! Don't tell no one I told you this. I kid, of course, about don't tell anyone I told you this. But I am not kidding in any way, shape, or form about that reality. Many of us have seen it not just in our own interpersonal relationships with our family and friends. And you see how they interact with their parents and the boomer generation. I mean, these are people that, like I said, for the most part, they believe the entire world. They believe that they are the sun of the solar system. And everything is supposed to rotate and focus and gravitate towards them. And because they've had it that way for so long, anyone that wants to challenge them in any way, shape, or form, no matter how kind you are, no matter how articulate your message is, no matter how honest you are, you can be polite or you can be angry with them. No matter what, they are going to be vehemently against you. They're going to oppose everything you want to do because this is what happens. It's like take your spoiled child, which is the boomer generation, and their entitled lifestyle that we're so fortunate enough, and it's not even that they've done anything exceptional, which has been covered in multiple media articles that has proven, yeah, you boomers, sorry, it's not that you did anything exceptional. It's not that you're this great generation. You're just lucky to be born, in a time when your parents, after post-World War II, when your parents were trying to repopulate, and there was all kinds of wealth in the Western Hemisphere because, Europe was devastated, but, there was no actual... The war didn't happen on North American soil, so Canadians and Americans had, huge advantage. So the boomers in our countries, Canada and the U.S., they were fortunate enough to go about 30 years plus of everything just, everything was uphill, right? Or should I say, the sky was the limit. Not that it was uphill, because it would mean that they had to put extra effort to get up there. No, they were actually lucky to have the ability that because of their luck of being born at the time they were, that they got to experience all the growth and all the prosperity that came as a result of forced collectivism, using indebtedness, forced subjugation, enslaving the masses to pay for it. But I mean, after 30 years, just like if you were just like a person that starts out, a typical person or even a couple, right? You start out as an adult, whether you have a family or not. But, as long as you at least do something that's remotely consistent, banks, investors, family members will keep supporting you, right? And allowing you to be as prosperous as you can, especially if they can benefit from it. So the boomers, for the last 30 plus years, have been living in exceptionally prosperous times. Something that no modern generation has ever experienced. But how has that prosperity actually come about? Was it because they did such amazingly exceptional things, that they produced so much wealth and were such hardworking people that they did something exceptional that their parents, their grandparents, or great-parents did? No. Because if we look today, how did it really come to happen? Look at the debt levels. From the time the boomers started taking controls of the political process and having the power to control and manipulate and use their their positions of power and influence to make everything work to their benefit. But if you look, even then, even with all that, look at the debts. Look at the debts. Personal debts, provincial debts, like local debts, provincial debts, federal debts, and even personal debts. They're all at ridiculous record levels, right? In modern recorded history, there's never been a time in modern recorded history when Canada, the U.S., and Western countries have been so indebted. Not just the country, not just the provinces, not just the localities, but even the people, their private households, right? Everybody. So did you really create this massive amount of prosperity, or did you just have the ability to have enslave lots of people where you can attain credit by enslaving masses, right? That's really all that happened. You folks didn't do anything exceptional. I hate to break it to you, but I mean, even in my own personal situation, I think I mentioned this in a prior video before. In my own personal subjective situation, which doesn't, it doesn't mean that it doesn't cover all of society. I'm sure many people would be able to acknowledge and recognize this in their own lives. Is here I am, 45 years old. My parents, which are the boomer generation, I'm actually in a position at 45 years old. I have 1.5 years left on my mortgage. I have no credit card debt. Basically, my mortgage, other than my mortgage, I have no debt. The wife's car payment. Other than that, we're pretty much close to being free and clear. When I look at my parents' generation, not even just my parents. Now, I come from, there was a fairly big family with, on my mother's side, 5 girls and 1 boy. On my father's side, I think it was 3 and 3. But either way, they're 4 and 3. Anyways, so yeah. But I look in almost every one of their situations, and I'm doing better financially, even though I was given a lot less and didn't, I never get to experience the kind of wealth that they did. But I never put myself in the kind of debt they did either. And at 60 some years old, my parents' age and their brothers and sisters, they're more indebted than I am now. And I wasn't given it all the benefits that they were given. Think about that. So, for you older generation that think that this is just going to work to your benefit some point in time in the future, like I say, I'm constantly baffled how you just want to constantly, impose your ideologies and use the power of the government on your successive generations. Well, I guess that's probably why, isn't it? You're actually, it probably hurts you people, a lot of you, to recognize the fact that, yeah, you guys are the ones that have put yourself in precarious situations. You guys are the ones, guys and gals, are the ones that's going to have you've got a lot to reckon with. And you've been putting off that day of reckoning for decades. Luckily, because you're in the demographic that has the power and control of the public purse especially, you can keep putting that day of reckoning off by luckily using the power of the state to force those debts and obligations onto successive generations. But I'm here to tell you, people like myself, it doesn't matter if the government tells me or you tell me or communities tell me, I'm not paying your debts. Not going to happen. And if it means, just like every other country that's had to show this, and if it means I have to go through the hardships of putting myself in a situation like now, which is basically what I've been doing for the last few years, because I recognize it's a complete waste for me right now to try to get into being. I'm very entrepreneurial, innovative, and I have high aspirations, but I'm not doing any of that stuff until I know that I'm not going to be screwed over, or someone's not going to, if I started a business tomorrow that became massively successful, what would really happen is a large portion of that wealth would be to go to make up for the shortfalls and misgivings of the generations that have further enslaved successive generations. But I'm not going to do that. It's not going to happen. Same with these younger generations of kids with massive amounts of debt. All you people in the baby boomer generation that thinking that you'll be able to live off 20 years when they start paying off. You really think that that's going to happen? I'm going to tell you right now that you're going to see a lot of defaults. a lot of defaults. So your whole concept, your whole mentality that you think that you can enslave successive generations and they're just going to sit down and take it, and when it comes time for you getting ready to retire, and then you can draw from that, you're enslaved successive generations. Well, you're going to find out that there's nothing going to be there. It's going to be an empty hat. You're going to be digging your hand into the bottom of the barrel, and there ain't going to be nothing there to reach for. It's going to be rough. If I were you, I'd kind of want to start rethinking my priorities. If you want to try to start thinking about, do I really want to keep using the force of government to enslave successive generations? You might get away with it for a while. It will benefit you in the interim. But when you get to the point where you don't have that power anymore, and we know how government works, if you're not, your lobbying powers ends as soon as you are no longer productive in society. You become less than nothing, right? Once you start retiring, and those will be the times that you're going to be looking for the return, the comeback. But guess where you're going to be looking to it? If you didn't allow government to grow, you would have kids that would be still care and respect you and want to take care of you. But because you've used the force and power of government to enslave your generation, the government's not going to be there for you. And the people that you thought you could use government to enslave, well, they're definitely not going to be there for you. So, yeah, it's going to be detrimental. It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. What is it in the U.S.? They got over $1 trillion of student debt. I don't know what it is in Canada, but it's a sizable amount too. And all of these, foreign investors and countries that are buying bonds, they actually believe that, I guess you've been, your political masters and your monetary manipulators have convinced some of these countries around the world that, don't worry, they'll be good for it. Oh, we've got them really good enslaved. They'll pay up the debts. Don't you worry. I mean, if you look at the BRICS and what they've been doing, and all these other countries, or Japan and all, I think they even recognize that, we're not going to be able to rely on that. It's probably never going to happen. We're probably never going to get the return on the investment. You people have paid yourself into a really, really messed up corner. The only way that I could even see, I mean, I've run this through my mind many different ways, on many different levels. And I think the only possible way that you're ever going to be able to try to, I mean, it is fixable to a certain degree. I don't think there's any point, there's no way I don't think that everything's going to happen smooth and seamlessly and there's not going to be any hardships. No, there's going to be hardships. But if you want to reduce them to the most minimal point that you can hope for, you better start mending relationships with your successive generations. That would be very wise. That would be of paramount importance if I were you. If I was of your age, well, I mean, I'm not burning no bridges with my kids and grandkids, I'll tell you that. I've seen where that's leading. So like I say, us younger generations, we're learning from your stupid mistakes. You don't recognize that, but it's happening. So yeah, swallow your pride. Recognize the people that you genuinely need to be there for you and support you in your vulnerable years. And do what's best. And hopefully it'll work out a lot better for you than the potential that I see today. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.